Next, in this video, we are going to talk about all the amendments that have taken place in online information database access and retrieval services. Now onwards in this video, I am going to call it online service, but the full name is online information database access and retrieval service. As far as this service is concerned, there are three materials which I have provided. First is a 12-pager material, which is my material. But again, I want you to study those 12 pages once, but then subsequently we can reduce it to a summary. First 2 pages is the summary. So suggestion, first time when you study or second time when you study, you can study all those 12 pages. But in revision condition or in examination condition, when you revise, you are not required to study all those 12 pages. You are supposed to revise only from the first 2 pages, which will work as summary for you. That is one thing. That is the first material, the 12 pager. Second is one CBC circular, and it is nothing but questions and answers, 48 in all. I found that most of those questions are either already answered in this summary, or some of those questions are redundant from student point of view. So what I have done, I have added one more material. Out of those 48, I have shortlisted few questions and answers. My strong recommendation, you can afford to ignore the circular which I have given. If you insist, you can read that circular also with 48 questions and answers, but comfortably I can tell you to ignore that circular and only have one reading of third material which I have added, questions and answers. So in all, 3 materials. One is my basic material 12 pager, which is reduced to summary, which is must. CBC circular ignore. Question and answers, my question and answers, one reading is advised. Having said that, let us study online services. First amendment is in POP rules. In POP rule, there was already a definition of online information service that has been substituted, and now there he says online information database access retrieval service definition is the same definition which is given in service tax rules. So that is the first amendment. I will show that amendment to you. In POP rules, in rule 2, there were definitions. The existing definition of online is omitted and substituted by new definition. What is that new definition? Says online information and database access or retrieval service has the same meaning as assigned to it in service tax rules. And in service tax rules, they have introduced a new definition of online services. Let us try to read that. One reading of this definition is advised. Nobody is going to ask you the definition, but generally you should understand the definition. So he says, now this definition is not in POP rules, it is in service tax rules, but it says online information and database access or retrieval service means a service whose delivery is mediated by information technology over the internet or electronic network. So this service is possible only via electronic means, the nature of which renders their supply essentially automated and involving minimum human intervention. It is normally automated service and it requires minimum human intervention, and impossible to ensure in the absence of information technology. Without information technology, it is not possible to provide such services. Then such service we call it as online information database access and retrieval service. 3 focus point पकड़ लिया उसने. The service is basically provided via electronic means. Normally it is fully automated, there may be minimum human intervention, and third, without information technology, without electronic means, it is impossible to provide this service. And then he says and includes, then he gives some examples of that: advertising on internet, providing cloud services, provisioning of e-book etc., providing data or information etc., online supplies of digital content, digital data storage, and online gaming. Worth reading couple of times. Please try to read this definition. So point to be noted, the first amendment from the POP rule, online information existing definition has been removed and substituted by a new definition, and in POP rule he says the definition given in service tax rules is to be accepted as the definition for the purpose of POP rules also, and service tax rules में उसने नया definition add कर दिया. That was the first amendment. Also POP rules में telecommunication service का definition था. There was a definition of telecommunication service in POP rules. There they have added the word that telecommunication service will not include online information and database access and retrieval service. Categorically he is telling you, remember, telecommunication service is different, online information database access retrieval service is different. So as far as definitions are concerned, there are two amendments which have been given as Annexure 1. Coming back to the summary, POP rule definition has been removed and it is substituted by some new definition, and telecommunication definition has been amended to say that telecommunication service does not include online services. That was the first amendment. Next amendment in POP rule was Rule 9B was omitted. This portion has been discussed as Annexure 3. Do you remember what is the POP? Where the service is deemed to have been provided is given by POP rule, and in all there were 14 rules. All those rules we have already studied. In that, Rule 9 was one rule where 4 parts were there. Rule 9 का basic answer था, if you are talking about the following 4 services, then POP is location of service provider. उसमें B portion था online information database access and retrieval service. In other words, historically for online information database access and retrieval service, Rule 9B of POP rule was applicable and POP was location of service provider. But they have deleted Rule 9B. And if 9B is deleted, that means by default for online information service, Rule 3 becomes applicable. In other words, now onwards for online information database access retrieval service, Rule 3 of POP rule will become applicable and POP will be location of service receiver. But there is one more amendment. Let us visit Annexure 3. I will explain once again. Rule 9B has been omitted. Consequently, for online information database access retrieval service, Rule 9B is not applicable. By default, Rule 3 will become applicable. And POP Rule 3 answer is POP is recipient of service. So for online information database access and retrieval service, POP will be location of service receiver. But if you remember, Rule 3, there was one proviso. What the proviso was saying, in the ordinary course of business, if it is not possible to find out location of service receiver, then POP will be considered as location of service provider. But in that proviso, they have made one amendment. They say this proviso is not applicable to online information database access retrieval service. Conclusion: always by default for online information database access and retrieval service, always POP will be location of service receiver. Even proviso is also not applicable. Always it is going to be location of service receiver. That is the amendment. Conclusion, I will draw once again. For online information database access retrieval service, now onwards POP will be location of service receiver. That was Annexure 3. Now let us understand the next amendments. But before we proceed, please understand next amendments are applicable only in one situation. Let us understand that situation. See, there are 4 possibilities. First possibility is that service provider is also from India and service receiver is also from India. So the platform, the service provider, the online information database access retrieval service जो provide करता है, he is also from India, and जो service receive करता है, he is also from India. We are not talking about this situation. Second possibility है service provider online information जो provide करता है, he is from India and service receiver is outside India. We are not talking about this situation. one possibility है service provider and service receiver are both of them are outside India. We are not talking about this situation. So we are talking only about a situation where service provider is outside India and service receiver is from India. The next amendments which we are going to learn are applicable only in this case. For example, service provider जो platform है जो online information data service provide कर रहा है, he is from USA and service receiver is from India, from taxable territory. If this is true, then only next amendments are applicable. As you can see, that is what I have said. We are only talking about online services where service provided or agreed to be provided by any person which is located in non-taxable territory and received by any person located in taxable territory. Now the next amendments are applicable only if service provider is from non-taxable territory and service receiver is from taxable territory. Now the next issue is there was one mega exemption 25 2012. It had one entry number 34. Whether that 34 number, whether it will be applicable to online information service, let us find it out. That is given as annexure 4. First, let us remember what was entry number 34. Entry number 34 was saying if service provider is from non-taxable territory and service receiver is government or local authority or government authority or any individual and service is in relation to other than business or profession, or it is a 12AA company, then it was exempt from service tax. Let me explain you this. What 34A and B was saying before the amendment. 34 was saying like this. Service provider is from non-taxable territory and service receiver is from taxable territory. Normally, if the service is provided, there is a service tax liability, and under reverse charge, liability to pay service tax is on service receiver. But this is normally. First I am talking normally. Normally क्या होता है? If service provider is from non-taxable territory and service receiver is from taxable territory, and if some taxable service is provided, there is a service tax liability, and under reverse charge, liability to pay service tax is on service receiver. But then there was one exemption, number 34A and 34B. What 34A was saying? Who is this service receiver? Is he a government? Is he a local authority, or is he a government authority, or is he an individual? And is the service for reasons other than business or profession, then exempt from service tax. No service tax liability because of 34A. Or he was saying, is the service receiver 12AA company? No service tax liability because 34A and 34B is applicable. एक बार रिवाइज करूंगा. Normally, if service provider is from non-taxable territory and service receiver is from taxable territory and a taxable service is provided, normally there is a service tax liability, and under reverse charge service receiver will have to pay service tax. But there was one exemption 34A and 34B which was only talking about if service receiver is government, local authority or government authority or an individual, and service is in relation to other than business or profession, or if service receiver is 12AA company. 34A and 34B was saying that it is exempt from service tax. But there is an amendment in 34. One proviso has been added. Proviso बोलता है provided that this exemption shall not apply to online information and database access or retrieval service received by person specified in clause A or clause B. इसका मतलब ये हुआ, if it is any other service 34A and 34B is available, but if service provider, एक बार रिपीट करता हूँ, service provider is from non-taxable territory, service receiver is 34A person or 34B person and service is provided, normally it is exempt. But is it online information database access retrieval service? Exemption is not available. एक बार वापस रिपीट करूंगा. Normally, if service provider is from non-taxable territory and service receiver is either 34A, मतलब government, local authority, government authority or individual, and service is in relation to other than business or profession, or if it is 12AA company, normally because of 34 there is exemption. But proviso to 34, which is newly inserted, says this exemption is not available if it is online services. एक बार जरा इसको देखो. Annexure 4, उसके लिए कुछ केस स्टडी भी मैंने बनाया है, वो भी आप पढ़ सकते हो. बट कमिंग बैक टू माय पॉइंट, we are talking about service provider from non-taxable territory, service receiver from taxable territory. First amendment is that 34A and 34B is not available for online services. Then they have introduced one new concept. They call it non-SSE online recipient. Who is this non-SSE online recipient? Are you a government? Are you a local authority? Are you a government authority? Or are you an individual? Have you received online information service? And is it relation to purpose other than business or profession? Then we will call you non-SSE online recipient. एक बार repeat करता हूँ. Are you government or local authority or government authority, or are you an individual? And have you received online information service, and is it in relation to purpose other than business or profession? Then we will call you non-SSE online recipient. एक बार पढ़ते हैं. Non-SSE online recipient means government, local authority या government authority or an individual receiving online information service in relation to purpose other than business or commerce and who is located in taxable territory. It is given in Annexure 4, Annexure 5. But then there is one more deeming fiction. We'll still call you online information, we'll still call you non-SSE recipient if you are any other person who is not registered under this act, matlab who is not registered under service tax. That is what is given as Annexure 7. Who is non-SSE online recipient? एक बार समझना ज़रूरी है, एक बार रिपीट करना ज़रूरी है. मैं आपको non-SSE online recipient तब बोलूँगा, उसके दो possibilities है. First, you are government, local authority or government authority, or you are an individual and you have received the service for purpose other than business or profession, and you have received online information service and you are from taxable territory. You are on non-SSE online recipient. Secondly, you are any other person, so you can be private limited company, public limited company, but for whatever reason you are not registered under Service Tax Act, still will call you non-SSE online recipient. यहाँ तक आ गए? तो फिर आगे कंक्लूजन सीखेंगे. अभी एकदम सिंपल बात करता है. बोलता है कि इफ यू आर नॉन SSE ऑनलाइन रिसिपेंट देयर इज फॉरवर्ड चार्ज, and if you are other than non-SSE online recipient there is a reverse charge. This is given in Annexure 7 and Annexure 6. Annexure 6 and Annexure 7 are obviously part of notification number 30 of 2012 read with service tax rules. But conclusion एक बार रिवाइज करता हूँ, थोड़ा अलग ढंग से शायद इस बार प्रेजेंट करने की कोशिश करता हूँ. या तो आप हो सकते हैं नॉन SSE ऑनलाइन रिसिपेंट, या तो आप हो सकते हैं अदर देन नॉन SSE ऑनलाइन रिसिपेंट. In this case there is a forward charge. Forward charge का मतलब क्या है? Who will be person liable to pay service tax? The service provider. And in this case there is a reverse charge. मतलब who will be person liable to pay service tax? The service receiver. ये कंसेप्ट एक बार रिपीट करने जैसा है. First tell me who are you? Are you non-SSC online recipient? What do you mean by that? Are you government, local authority, government authority, or an individual? You have received a service which is online service which you have been using for purpose other than business or profession, and you are from taxable territory. Then I call you non-SSC online recipient. There is other reason also why I will call you non-SSC online recipient. If you are any other person who is not registered under the service tax, still I will call you non-SSC online recipient. So now either you are non-SSC online recipient or you are other than non-SSC online recipient. In case of non-SSC online recipient, forward charge. In case of other than non-SSC online recipient, reverse charge. ये वाले केस के बारे में जरा सोचने वाली बात है. Who is the service provider, sir? Service provider is from non-taxable territory. First time we are making a person from non-taxable territory to pay service tax, and that is the reason there are some amendments in service tax rules. Please understand the point. We are talking, where did we started? Basic assumption was service provider, the online platform, is from outside India. And now you are telling me that service provider who is from non-taxable territory, he is supposed to pay service tax. If it's a forward charge, matlab liability to pay service tax is on service provider who is from non-taxable territory. My government has to go to New York, catch the collar of that person and recover service tax from him. There are some amendments required. Service tax rules are amended. Service tax rule 4 was talking about registration. Now this, a person from non-taxable territory will be seeking registration. So rule 4 has been amended. New form ST1A has been introduced. He will apply for registration in form number ST1A and he will be granted registration certificate under ST2A. If you remember, service tax rule 4A was talking about issue of invoice. There is one amendment in rule 4A. Now this person from non-taxable territory will be issuing service tax invoice. So he has been allowed to issue invoice with certain dispensations. You can read Annexure 8. They are very minor amendments. This is not very expected, but still Annexure 8 you can read how the invoice is to be issued by such a service provider. So next amendment was service tax rule 4A has been amended. This person from non-taxable territory will be, who is a provider of online information service, will be issuing invoice under rule 4A, but his invoice will have little different format. You are filing returns under rule 7. This person will be filing return under form number ST3C. Now he will be paying service tax also, and online payment procedure has been issued, which I have given as Annexure 9, a very simple step-by-step procedure. This person from non-taxable territory, whatever is his service tax liability under forward charge, he will have to pay it online, and what is the procedure for that is given as Annexure number 9. And then there are some transitional provisions which are given as Annexure 10, which according to me are the most redundant. So this is something which we have to learn. एक बार मैं इसको खाली रिवाइज करता हूँ. There is something more to learn. There is one more page we have to learn. But before that, एक बार ये पेज का रिवीजन बनता है. पहला अमेंडमेंट था, पीओपी रूल में से ऑनलाइन इंफॉर्मेशन डेटाबेस एक्सेस सर्विस का डेफिनेशन ओमिट कर दिया और वहाँ पे लिख दिया कि द डेफिनेशन गिवन इन सर्विस टैक्स रूल विल बी एज इट इज़ एप्लीकेबल. दूसरा, POP rule telecommunication service definition has been amended, and in the telecommunication definition categorically they have written that telecommunication service does not include online services. Third, POP rule 3. Next was rule 9b of POP rule has been omitted. 9b was specifically talking about online information, and historically for online information, POP was location of service provider, but because 9b is omitted, default rule 3 becomes applicable. And in fact rule 3 का जो proviso है, वो proviso में हमने लिखा था कि in the ordinary course of business, if it is not possible to find out location of service receiver, then POP will be location of service provider. That proviso not applicable to online information. So conclusion, for online information by default POP will be always location of service receiver. Then I started to talk about only one situation. We are talking about service provider from non-taxable territory and service receiver from taxable territory. Next all amendments applicable only in that case. There 34 has been amended. 34 was saying if service is provided from non-taxable territory and it is received by government, local authority or an individual, and the service is in relation to purpose other than business or commerce, it was exempt. But this exemption is not applicable to online services. That is one. Next, they defined what do you mean by non-SSE online recipient. There is one deeming fiction about it. What is non-SSE online recipient? Are you government, local authority, government authority, or an individual? Have you received online services? Have you received it for the purpose other than business or profession, and are you from taxable territory? Then we call you non-SSE online recipient. Also there is one deeming fiction. Are you any other person who is not registered under service tax? We call you non-SSE online recipient. फिर उन्होंने नोटिफिकेशन नंबर 30 of 2012 रेड विथ सर्विस टैक्स रूल्स में अमेंडमेंट कर दिया. इफ इट इज नॉन एसएससी ऑनलाइन रिसिपेंट देयर इज गोइंग टू बी फॉरवर्ड चार्ज, एंड इफ इट इज अदर देन नॉन एसएससी ऑनलाइन रिसिपेंट देयर इज गोइंग टू बी रिवर्स चार्ज. नाउ फर्स्ट टाइम we are talking about non-taxable territory service provider becoming taxable, and so he has to get registered, he has to issue invoice, and he has to file returns, he has to pay as per some procedure, and then there are some transitional provisions. This was the page 1. Now I shift to page 2. Yes, page 2. Acha, till now we were saying that service recipient has to be from taxable territory. But how do you know that where is the service receiver, whether he is from taxable territory or whether he is from non-taxable territory? How do you decide that? I'll give you one very simple example. There is one person who is from India. He has bank account in India. He has mobile phone in India. Mobile phone SIM card was issued from Mumbai. He has bank account in Mumbai, but he is on travel in London. There, using his mobile phone, he has availed online services, and by using his account in Mumbai, he has paid. Now, whether that person is from taxable territory or whether that person is from non-taxable territory, online services are such you can move across the globe and still you can receive the service. I will give you one opposite example. There may be person from London who has an account in London, who has mobile phone card issued in London, but he has come to India to see Taj Mahal, and while seeing the Taj Mahal, while in Agra, he has availed online services. Now, when he availed online services, he has used that mobile phone which was issued in London, and he has paid for it from his bank account in London, but while availing the service, he was in taxable territory. Now, whether he is recipient from taxable territory, how do you decide that? Whether service receiver is from taxable territory, how do you decide that? Annexure 7, and he says, the person receiving such service shall deem to be located in taxable territory if any of the two following non-contradictory conditions are satisfied. I have categorized them into two parts. That is not the way it is presented in the rule actually, but I think if I present it, it becomes little more logical. First, this side, I think this is about payment mechanism. Is he holding a credit card, etc., by which the service recipient settles the payment has been issued from taxable territory. Service receiver ने जो credit card को use किया है for paying, was that credit card issued in taxable territory? If bank in which the amount used bank in which the amount used for payment is maintained is in taxable territory. He has not used credit card, but he has electronically paid via his bank, and that bank is from taxable territory. Then this is one evidence that he is from taxable territory. So यहाँ पे right hand side में जो है that was payment related, either a credit card issued from taxable territory or payment made from a bank account which is held in taxable territory. Right side देखो तो it is about address presented by service recipient is from taxable territory. So when he gave his address to the service provider, he must have submitted certain documents like Aadhaar card or PAN card or passport, and that address is from taxable territory. Billing address is from taxable territory. IP is from taxable territory, or SIM card. If he has availed the service by mobile phone and the SIM card which he is using was issued from taxable territory, or recipient fixed landline is from taxable territory. Left hand side में देखो तो एड्रेस रिलेटेड इश्यूज है, राइट हैंड साइड में देखो तो पेमेंट रिलेटेड इश्यूज है, और रूल बोलता है कि I will call you non-SSC online recipient from taxable territory if any of the two non-contradictory conditions are satisfied. That is one point we have to learn. Next point we have to learn is about forward charge. Please understand, if it is non-SSC online recipient, forward charge is there, but now the question is who pays. Now here we have to understand, sometimes service provider is maintaining his own portal, own site, and from where he is providing the service. Then liability to pay service tax will be of course on the service provider, but sometimes service provider may be different and the portal from where the service is provided may be different. Now there are two possibilities here. Let me give you example. Service provider has IP for certain music. He has his own portal. This service provider is from USA. He has IP for several musics and he owns his own portal. There is a service receiver from India and he has availed the service. Please understand, the owner of the IP himself is providing service, then of course liability to pay, who is the service provider in this case, is that person who owns this music. But then there is another possibility. There is a service provider. This is the second possibility. The service provider, he has lot of IP, intellectual property for music, but he does not want to run the portal. He has tied up with a portal. Portal is some other person, and there is a service receiver in India. Service was provided through this portal. Now who is the service provider? Whether the music, the owner of the IP, or whether the portal. We have to decide that, and that is what I am discussing here. Online information database service provided to non-SSC online recipient, there is going to be a forward charge. Is it received through an intermediary located in the non-taxable territory who is not a pure agent? Mind you, the word pure agent I am using, that is not used anywhere in this service, but because of rule 5 we understand concept of pure agent, so I am trying to use that word here. I will repeat, the word pure agent per se is not used anywhere in this service. I am using this word only to explain you the concept. वो बोलता है कि is this portal working as a pure agent? Please understand, via portal service receiver gets information of this service provider. He likes the music, he can listen to the sample music, he decides to buy, he directly pays to service provider, and the content is directly delivered by service provider to service receiver. Portal is only getting commission from service provider. I will repeat one example. Service receiver goes on the portal, he gets information about this music being available, he is able to watch demo videos also, he likes that music, he decides to buy, Then portal connects him directly to service provider. Service receiver directly pays to service provider. Service provider directly gives download of the content to service receiver. As far as portal is concerned, he only gets commission from service provider. If this is true, in layman's language, portal has worked as pure agent, then owner of the IP will be considered as service provider. Alternatively, service provider who is owner of this IP music has tied up with the portal. Service receiver access the portal. He likes the music. He decides to buy. He makes payment to the portal, and portal gives him download of the music also. Here portal may, as per the agreement, whatever amount due, portal may share it with the service provider. In my second example, portal has not worked as pure agent. In that case, person liable to pay service tax will be portal. First case, as an example, where portal has worked as a pure agent, then liability to pay service tax was on IP owner. In my second example, where portal has not worked as pure agent, he has processed the payment and he has guaranteed the delivery, then service provider is not the musician, service provider will become portal. That is the point which I want to make here. He says, if service received through an intermediary located in non-taxable territory who is not a pure agent, then such an intermediary. But if received through an intermediary located in non-taxable territory who is a pure agent, then liability to pay service tax will be on service provider. This is any person located in taxable territory by representing. Sometimes what may happen, service provider is from non-taxable territory, but he has representative in India. Then liability to pay service tax will be on representative in India. And the last situation, he is saying, if service provider does not have representative in India, mind the words, if the service provider does not have physical presence or does not have representative for any purpose in taxable territory, service provider may appoint a person in taxable territory, and person liable to pay service tax will become that person. So तीन possibilities है. Service provider has representative in India, then person liable to pay service tax will be that representative. Otherwise, service provider neither have any presence nor have any representative, then he may appoint a person in India and that person will become person liable to pay service tax. Last issue remains, how do you decide whether that intermediary is pure agent or not? यहाँ पे क्या लिखा है मैं क्रक्स में बताता हूँ. Is that portal guaranteeing the delivery? Is that portal giving the downloads? Is that portal processing the payments, receiving the payments and passing it on to the IP owner? Then he is not a pure agent. But if he is not doing this, he is not guaranteeing the delivery of the content, neither he is processing the payment, we will consider him as pure agent. Conclusion में वो लिखता है, if intermediary involved is pure agent, then person liable to pay service tax will be the actual owner of the IP. But if intermediary is not a pure agent, person liable to pay service tax will be the intermediary. That is the annexure 7 and which I have discussed here. So these are all the amendments running into 12 pages about online information database access and retrieval service. Please revise them once. You can read all my 12 pages once or twice, but I am sure you should be trying to revise it only from page number 1 and 2. I am sure this must have been one of the most difficult service to understand. I have tried my level best to present it in simplified form. Thank you.